We are joined by the chairman and head of AliPac, alipac.us, ALIPAC.us. This is a short segment, long segment coming up. They've got some solutions to fight back against this. William Geen is the leader of Americans for Legal Immigration PAC, or AliPac. alipac.com, williamgeen.com. And they have been right there getting us the intel that barely defeated the bipartisan bills under Bush and now Obama. But instead, we're seeing the borders drop by fiat. He's up there at Capitol Hill lobbying for national sovereignty every day. So in the short segment, sir, thank you for joining us via video Skype for TV viewers and radio listeners. But first, give us the big picture, because you and Glenn Spencer and others warned of this collapse plan for a long time. And quite frankly, a lot of people rolled their eyes, including myself. Not that I didn't respect you. I just didn't understand they could be this bold. And if they get away with this, it'd be like a pervert raping children in broad daylight at a school playground and not getting in trouble. I mean, this is really getting crazy. What's happening?
If you were ever going to do anything to help your country, this is the time to do it. If we fail at what our mission is between today and this weekend and November 4th, this could become the last ride of the Americans. They're going for broke. You're right, Alex. They're just doing it. They're in everybody's face. The public is upset. And that's why the plans that I want to talk about with you and your audience there are so important. We have to give people a plan to come out of this thing. Otherwise, when people are faced with this type of situation, they feel powerless. They'll start shutting down. And if Americans shut down on this one, it's over. We've got illegal immigration. It's the top issue in America going right into the 2014 elections. And if we do the right things and we say the right things and we organize well, we can throw more people in D.C. who are responsible for this invasion out of power this year than any prior modern election.
I agree with you. The globalists have really miscalculated out of desperation. All the signs, all the political numbers, even mainline pundits say total libertarian Tea Party sweep of Republican blue bloods and Democratic seats, and a real reversal. So this is really a desperation move by the globalists to implode the borders, bring in the North American Union.
That's true. And if they get much further along without us stopping them, it's going to be too late. And people that come in after this election season saying, well, I want to help or I want to do something, we may still be fighting back politically, but we're going to have to tell them that it's too little too late. Right now, in about 5 days, on Saturday, August 2nd, we're going to kick off a new wave of national protests against illegal immigration in the targeted states of Tennessee, Michigan, and Washington State, of which Tennessee is the most important, because that's the last place in America where we have one more Eric Cantor amnesty-supporting type of Republican, Senator Lamar Alexander, to try to throw down. But for the reasons we can discuss later in the broadcast,
Alexander must fall.
Alexander must fall, and it's going to take a national movement. I repeat, it is going to take a national movement to defeat Lamar Alexander and to elect Joe Carr in the GOP primary that takes place Thursday, August 7th. And we need as many bodies as possible in Tennessee and surrounding states traveling to be with us Saturday, August 2nd, as we protest outside of 6 locations in Tennessee outside of Lamar Alexander's district offices, to remind the country and all Tennesseans that Lamar Alexander is the reason we have a border surge. He voted for and passed Senate Bill S-44, which would turn tens of millions of illegals into future voters, competitive workers, and social welfare recipients. Lamar Alexander is holding the cards with a lot more money than us, telling big lies with big media. He's got a vote splitter on the ballot. He's going to try to get Democrats to come vote for him, just like we saw down in Mississippi earlier this year. But we've got a real groundswell that is very similar to what happened with Eric Cantor. And AliPac, we played a key role in the defeat of Eric Cantor.
I know you did. Let's talk about a strategy to win.
Celebrate the spirit of freedom and liberty upon which our nation was founded at InfoWarsShop.com. Molon Lave is ancient Greek for come and take it. This popular design combines both classic Greek Spartan imagery with modern M16 assault rifles. Now available in women's tees and proudly made in the USA. Celebrate the spirit of 1776 with the George Washington brass belt buckle, or this incredibly sharp-looking 1776 hat. Badass. And be sure to check out the new arrivals at InfoWars Life, where you can prepare your body to perform at peak levels with Survival Shield Nascent Iodine. Super Male Vitality, and Fluoride Shield. And Wake Up America, Immune Support Blend is the healthy choice for the gourmet coffee lover. So get incredibly high-quality, freedom-based products and help fund the revolution at InfoWarsShop.com.
You got to hand it to the globalists, though. Like all master criminals, they are incredibly bold. They have a lot of panache, a lot of flair. They are outlandish. Imagine, we already have the most open borders in the world, the most open welfare for immigrants in the world. It's only Western Europe and the United States that do this. Totally wide open. If you can get here, free health care, pay for your baby, massive welfare. And see, these Latin American immigrants on average have been perfect because they are hardworking on average and have a lot of ingenuity and are smart. But then they'll also work the system and go get on welfare at the same time as a supplemental under multiple identities. But forget that now. This isn't like, like 30, 40 years ago having migrants that went back and forth to do the, hard work out in California where you didn't have a big farming population. This is the collapse of Latin America that is in total shambles right now in the global depression, in an agreed deal with Guatemala, Mexico, and the U.S. to bring in unlimited illegals who have diseases, who have huge criminal records, who have mental issues, who are handicapped, who are totally ready to fall in as Democratic Party voters. And then Melissa Harris Perry gets up and says, you are racist, like the Klan, if you aren't for totally open borders. I mean, that is just wild. It'd be one thing if they said anybody can come here but no welfare. That would still be pretty wild. But I'd be, okay, fine. Because, we've killed 50-something million of our babies. We do need to replace the population. But no. If you took all the middle-class people out of Latin America, there's not many down there, it would collapse. In fact, some of the middle class down there is better than our middle class because you got to work really hard, know what you're doing to survive in these kleptocracies. If the middle class of Latin America wanted to come up here, great. In fact, I know a lot of rich and middle class Mexicans that have fled up here, and they'll stop me downtown going, Mr. Jones, you don't know how deadly Mexico is. I had to leave. They used to kidnap people, and they took over my restaurant, or they took over my factory, or they killed my wife. I mean, everywhere I go. I was in a restaurant once, and the owner was Mexican from Mexico. It turned out he was like some famous boxer. He runs over, he's like 70 years old, something like Ricardo Montalban. He's like, Mr. Jones, you have no idea how bad it is. You're absolutely right. It's collapsing, blah, 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 blah. Wait till the average yuppie finds out how bad this is. I want to go back to William Geen of alipac.com, alipac.com. There is a strategy, like with Canner and others, to destroy them. That's why because they're destroying us. That's why the Republican leadership with the big classic Republican donors have lined up with the Democrats to double down money against Tea Party people at the city, county, state, federal level, because they can see the numbers that people understand what's happening. And let's just be honest here. There's probably 20% of the Republican Party that doesn't like seeing a bunch of brown people run around and doing it because of racism. But I know, Mr. Geen, I know myself, this is about survival. Okay, Latin American countries hate each other, folks, and have riots over soccer games. You cannot bring in masses of people from collapsed countries like this and not have a total meltdown. So you got a bunch of racists on the Hispanic side, a bunch of racists on the white side. This isn't about that. I'm not dumb enough to care about the color of somebody's skin. I care about the content of their minds. And the Democrats want these people here, pure and simple, to turn the whole country blue, and the Republican traitors are working with them. You've got the floor, sir, to break it down. William Geen, the head of alipac.com.
Well, what's happening right now, Alex, we believe is more than just campaigns and protests. We believe that there's a new movement rising rapidly in America that's beyond the Minutemen, beyond the Tea Party. And it seems to be involving a lot of different groups and other different types of Americans that weren't working together before, combined with people who are starting to abandon Obama and the Democrats, including blacks, Hispanics, white liberals in cities Everyone's waking up to Obama as he tries to run across the field with this. So we have a movement that's building. And we have some very, very encouraging information of things that just happened. You know, just last weekend, we held over 300 protests across this country on July 18th and 19th. Some were small as 5 or 10 people on an overpass. Some of them had 100 people, but they were in 300 locations against illegal immigration, against immigration reform amnesty legislation, and against the current Obama-inspired border surge that we're enduring at our borders right now. And we did these, and then there was one other. It was an interesting story because it just broke out of Boston. We had gotten a note from some people in Boston around a radio show personality that wanted to do one as part of our national protest, but they wanted to do it a week later. And we were like, well, okay, but, you know, we're trying to get everybody to do it at the same time. So we did ours. We broke through the mainstream media. We generated hundreds of local television, local newspaper, local radio broadcasts that were devoid of the usual racism calls and negative type of bias that we encounter from the mainstream national media. We bypassed them. We broke through that. Then a week later, this past Saturday, July 26th, truly historic date, Boston, Massachusetts, over 5,000 American patriots gathered in Boston following a radio show host named Jeff Cooner, who did one of these protests. But of course, the Boston Globe takes little bitty up-close pictures of the crowd, claims that only hundreds were there, and as a disinformation campaign worthy of a psychological operation conducted by a military against another nation, they pumped this out on social media saying, look, Boston. And we were excited because, hey, you know, a couple hundred people, that was great. About an hour and a half later, this past Saturday night, the pictures start coming in. There are clearly thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people in a liberal bastion like Boston that are chanting, send them back, and USA. So we have a movement here that we have to nurture it, and we have to build it up. It starts this Saturday in 3 states, Tennessee, Washington State, and Michigan. We have protests that are on the front page at alipac.us, alipac.us, and our email alerts will also keep you up to date. We're on Facebook under Americans for Legal Immigration, but remember that Facebook is Mark Zuckerberg and Obama territory. Everything you say there is completely recorded and monitored, and you can't trust them to let us get to you when we need to. So we start on the 2nd. We've got a few more targeted protests, but then we're going to have them all over the country in different places, culminating in a new, hopefully larger national wave. We want at least 500 protests across the country right before the general elections on Friday, October 24th, and Saturday, October 25th. We want it to be undeniable. We want it to be so powerful that it doesn't matter what the media does, that they see these protests all across the nation. And Alex, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but there's something I hope you'll consider. I hope that you'll ask your staff to start putting our updates on your website about this thing, and consider leading a protest yourself, because the indication from what happened in Boston is that if you or other talk radio show personalities out there that are monitoring this situation, if you go to the ground now, if you reinforce one of these local protests, if you show up as a speaker and talk about it on your show, instead of a few hundred people, we end up with thousands. And while some radio show hosts may say, well, you know, I just report and I don't really get too involved with the politics of it, maybe so. This is the make or break point for the United States of America. This is where the country is teetering between destruction and possible salvation. That's going to be decided between this very day today and November 4th, 2014, because we have a chance to throw out more. You know, the goal is to throw Lamar Alexander out on August 7th. And after that, the goal is to wipe out politically every single Democrat running from dog catcher up to U.S. Senate we can. The party of Obama has to fall so hard that our political revolution must be stronger than the revolution of 2010, stronger than the revolution of 94. And I believe that all of the stars are aligned for us to do that if the proper activists, citizen support, and leaders will step forth at this time.
Well, I'll say this. I've always tried to be nonpartisan, and I've kept Republicans and Democrats at arm's length. I'm a libertarian constitutionalist, so I get attacked more by the Democrats traditionally because they're basically communist at the grassroots level. Above them are these globalists that, you know, are managing any dumbed-down population they can control. But the Democrats, under Obama the last 7 years, are going for the jugular, shutting down our coal power plants that are totally clean. And they even have mainstream articles today about how it's making the earth dirtier because Mexico and China and India have no controls, and it's all just going there. energy prices doubling for electricity roughly has made what companies were here leave. I mean, folks, I say that every day because shutting down our power plants, I mean that's an act of war. That's an act of embargoing the nation, devaluing our dollar, funding Al-Qaeda, starting wars with Russia. I mean, it's just over the top how la-la land nuts it is. And I want to believe that the globalists through Obama at least have some plan. But when I really pull back from it, they're destroying their own empire. And it really comes down to the fact that the Democratic Party really does hate individual wealth and the middle class. And I've got an article here where today, I was going to get to in a minute when I dig it out, where all the majority of billionaires are supporting open borders because they really do want to destroy the middle class and be the only ones with money, because the only thing that threatens a big globalist is the middle class that's got $1 million or $500,000 saved, because we might want to be free, or somebody who's going to retire with $1 million or $2 million. They want us out of the way, just like in the third world they want people poor. And it fundamentally, at Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg with his pump and dump, it makes me angry at them, William, that they really, I realize that the Democratic Party is like Ted Bundy psychopaths at the highest levels. They didn't used to be this bad, in my view. So I'm forced to totally throw my weight behind the Tea Party and proto-conservatives, because, not that they're even perfect, but because the Democrats are the equivalent of metastasized cancer.
Well, Alex, once again, what's happening now is beyond the Tea Party, because I think a lot of people are starting to understand that what we have here is a constitutional crisis. When the borders are being destroyed and our existing laws are not being enforced, and the President of the United States is so far outside of his constitutional abilities, including what you mentioned earlier, the report that he's going to grant amnesty to 5 million illegal immigrants. Let me make this clear. Barack Obama does not have the constitutional authority to grant amnesty to any group of people.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. So how is it happening?
Well, he must be stopped. Now, our way to stop him is this. We feel that if we had a Speaker of the House that was actually his political opponent, instead of John Boehner, who is actively protecting President Obama.
They're blackmailing Boehner, that's the word.
But whatever his excuse, Mr. Pink Tie, teary-eyed excuse is, I don't care what his excuse is. And anybody out there that doesn't understand what I'm saying yet, when I say that John Boehner is actively protecting President Obama, you need to get wise really fast.
Is he hanging out with Lindsey Graham?
Probably in more ways than we'd like to think about. But there's probably what we think would happen here is if we had a Speaker of the House that was serious about his oath of office and his party and his principles, we would probably see a lot of Obama's abuses of power stop immediately.
Oh, exactly. The Republican leadership is in bed giving him the green light. It's important to point out they are the real Benedict Arnolds.
But if the president does not restrain himself from further abuses of power, the forefathers of this nation, they built a clause into the Constitution. They built the remedy in there. And the remedy is to impeach the president, impeach the vice president, down to the third in command, the Speaker of the House. And the Speaker of the House makes sure it's not some sellout like John Boehner. And the Speaker of the House comes out and says, we've impeached the president for numerous crimes and abuses of power. We are now in control of all federal agencies, are under the control of the Congress, and will remain so for 1 year until we make sure all the politicos are kicked out and that all federal agencies of the United States government are back under constitutional and control of the people. Because right now we've got people over at the IRS that need to go to jail for targeting political.
Well, that's what I was getting to earlier. It is a wild power-grabbing orgy, literally shutting the country's power off, which the average person doesn't understand. Your power prices doubling screws you over, shuts down factories. They literally want to destroy the country. Why would the elite that already runs the nation want to destroy their own engine? They
don't want to, Alex, they don't want to destroy the whole country. They just want to destroy the kinds of people of all races that might be motivated by things they don't control. They like people who are motivated by the same thing as the market forces, fear and greed, and people who are nationalist-oriented or patriotic Americans or Christians or other religions and whatnot. They don't operate on just fear and greed. We are people that are operating on a set of principles and an understanding and a relationship between ourselves, God, and our government, and a government that was modeled after the Christian reform movements of Western Europe.
Oh, yeah, that's it. They want totally displaced, desperate people that have no idea what's going on, who can become a total slave political class to be exploited. I mean, let's be clear. They're already exploiting these young people and these teenagers and these moms for all sorts of criminal operations. Man, I tell you, the Democratic Party is a mafia.
But you do that, they're doing that by bringing in people that have no shared national or cultural experience with us, that are willing to literally say or do anything that their new master's calling them to do to protect their positions. Once Obama brings these kids in, gives them their Obama phone, enrolls them in Obamacare, puts them in a public school, pays for their housing, pays for their food, and envelops them in the
moves them in with Democratic Party operatives, $6,000 a month. So it's like a Democratic foster care system.
I think it goes way beyond Democratic political machinery, and I would contend that these people will do anything that their leaders call on them to do, and I do mean anything.
Well, they admit that MS-13, these gangs use these kids to kill people. That's now been confirmed. Fake IDs, political cutouts. I mean, I've never seen anything. And then I saw cops on I-35 searching housewives with babies yesterday, searching their cars with our borders open.
The problem about trying to take up full gun confiscation and cracking down in a totalitarian fashion against American citizens is who amongst the country hates their fellow countrymen and women so much that you could turn them to do that. They only have a small section of people that are willing to do that. And it's probably going to be the people that remain loyal to Obama to the very end. These people that come in, if they come to them and say, you must do this for your glorious leader, or you're going back to the jungle and you got to give the phone back and the food back and the free lodging back, a lot of them will make the decision to do about anything. But once again, the Constitution gives...
No, that's like the African child slave soldiers.
Well, they're not currently sworn to the United States Constitution. They don't seem to have any appreciation.
No, but I mean, that's how all those African countries are run, is off poor kids they grab at 12 and give a machine gun to. And Obama talks about his national security force just as big, just as strong as our military. It's so bold, but when you look at it, they really are doing that.
Well, if we wanted to help these people and help their countries, the idea would be to export the things that have been great and work about America to them. But instead, we're exporting the things that are wrong with their countries into ours. And that's clearly, and it's happening against the will of, like the polls you cited, 70, 80, 90% of Americans of all races, all walks of life oppose this. And that's why they call you a racist and me a racist, because they want to try to put divisions in between us to stop you or me or anyone else.
Well, this is going to hurt everybody. William Geen, Allipack.com. I want to get you back up again the day of the demonstration or right before it, and we'll try to set something up here in Austin, Texas. Alex Jones here to break down some exciting developments in the area of research concerning supplemental iodine. It's nothing less than phenomenal. I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. And I used some of the mainline iodine supplements and they upset my stomach and I had some issues with it. Until I discovered a product being developed by Dr. Group, who I was already interviewing as an expert on my radio show, and I began taking the product before he actually rolled it out. You now know it as Survival Shield True Nascent Iodine that your body can really absorb. Then, about a year ago, he said, listen, if you think this is powerful, I'm going to come out with rare earth, deep earth crystals that are incredibly powerful that no one else has as a source for their iodine from between 7,000 and 12,000 feet, literally drilled out of the ground. You put it on a hot plate and it turns into the pure gas. No one else has 99.99% pure iodine. And the results that I personally have had have been life-changing. I was over 270 pounds. And with the iodine, exercise, and better diet, I have lost now more than 50 pounds total, and I'm continuing to lose the weight. I have more energy, my libido, all this crap came out of my skin. I believe our research is conclusive. This is the best iodine out there. And I know this for a fact. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen. This is innovating. This is trailblazing.
And the best part is it helps fund Infowars.com, the radio show, the TV show, the whole media operation promoting true libertarian ideas.
For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox special at InfoWarsLife.com.